Hello everybody. So today we are going to be looking at part 2 of image optimization, and this is going to involve a tutorial which I'm going to demonstrate for you today and talk about as I go through it, and then you are going to be performing the tutorial yourself and then uploading a few screen captures at the end to document the work that you've completed. By this time, you should have already watched the lecture that I provided on image optimization part 1, which covered file types that are appropriate for on-screen viewing, such as JPEG, PNG, and GIF. And in addition to that, you should have learned a little bit about foreground images versus background images. And there was also some information in there just about strategies for optimizing. So we're going to take that information today and we are going to apply it to a tutorial HTML page where we are going to get some assets that I provided for you. We are going to take them through Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator and optimize them out. And then at the end, we are going to take those newly optimized files and apply them in a web page. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Hold tight and I'm going to take you through it. Okay, so I am currently in our module for Site 1, and I am in the Stock to Site Image Optimization tutorial, which is an assignment posting. And I wanted to go over the beginning of the assignment just to help you get set up with it before we jump into the actual steps. So down here in our posting, it says that we are going to take our assets through the optimization process in Illustrator and Photoshop. Then we're going to add them into our website, the sample website that we're working on right now for this tutorial. So to be able to complete the tutorial, you're going to need the tutorial handout. I printed mine out because I just find that to be a little bit easier for me. It's rather lengthy though, but it has all the full instructions that I'm going to be covering in the video today. So if it's helpful for you and you have access to a printer, I'm sure that that would make things easier for you and you can put it in your binder. And if not, you can read the tutorial steps online. So once you click on the tutorial handout, it's going to take you and you can actually read all the steps online. So that's kind of helpful as well. And then of course I'm going to be demonstrating the same steps here on our video. And then we're also going to need to get the tutorial files, and it's going to come as a zip file, which means that there are folders and files inside of it, and they've all been compressed into a zip file that you can download and then uncompress and store it on your computer, which is also covered inside of the handouts. And then we have another document in here that we're going to be referring to as a way to practice citing our resources in case we are using stock assets. I'm going to step out of here really quickly and just remind you in our module that we also have a posting in here that is about working with stock assets and citing. So when I click on the stock assets and citing, there's a posting on here which talks about how you can use stock resources like images and graphics that were uploaded and the licensing was changed on them so that people like you or I can use those in our design projects, and we don't actually have to pay for them, or even legally we don't even actually have to cite where they came from. But because this is a class, I want to know where your resources are coming from, so you're going to cite them for me. So you'll want to read through this posting if you plan on using stock resources for your website, because there's a lot of useful information in here. And it also covers things like how to track the assets that you downloaded in here. So it's really helpful, and I would say actually even essential, that you keep track of the assets that you're downloading and where you downloaded them from. So we'll take a look at this document a little bit later in our tutorial. And then there's some information in here about assets that don't have a license for you or I to reuse them, and therefore they are unavailable to us. We cannot use them in our web projects. I also have a lecture in here on copyright and Creative Commons, public domain, and fair use. which talks about image and asset legal usages. So I would strongly encourage you to download that and tuck it away, read it later if it doesn't apply to you for this website. And then there's also a section in here on the page which talks about how to cite your sources through HTML and also in CSS, which we are again going to be taking a look at today. And then of course I have extra resources for you. Okay, I'm going to go back into the tutorial now. And here we go. Okay, so tutorial handout we covered, tutorial files we're going to get. The stock to site asset tracking and citing document is an example document that I put together to give you some idea about how you might keep track of assets that you are downloading from stock resources or buying from stock resources. So in here what I have is I have something like, this is just a text document like Word or Pages or Google Docs. And what I've done is when I have gone in and downloaded a file from a stock resource like Unsplash or Pexels, I take that file, drag it into a text document, scale the image down really small so I just have a visual reminder of what that asset was. And then you can see that I added a little annotation like, oh, this is a white brick wall. And then I put a link to the original resource online so that I can go back to that later if I need to, if I lose an asset, or if I want to check licensing restrictions. Everything that I have posted on here came from the resources that I talked about in the stock assets and citing that are free for me and legal for me to use in design or creative projects. So this is my asset tracking document sample. I am going to use that a little bit later because part of citing your sources for stock assets is that you need to include a link to the original file online. So this document right here where I have been already logging all of the links is going to come in it's going to be useful for me when I get to the point where I need to actually cite my resources in my code. Okay, so going back into the stock to cite, the other thing that you're going to need to do the tutorial is Photoshop, Illustrator, and Dreamweaver. So if you are working with Dreamweaver and you have either the your own subscription or you're working with the free subscription, you should be able to download and install all three of these applications. So Dreamweaver for sure, and then Photoshop and Illustrator are both going to be used in our tutorial today. The video of me doing the tutorial is the video that I'm recording right now, so you'll see those pop up here shortly as soon as they're able to be processed. And then at the end of the tutorial, what you're going to be turning in are 3 screen captures of your work that you're completing so that you don't have to actually upload this site online to through FileZilla. What you really just need to do is take some screen captures. So you're going to be taking a screen capture of the finished page once it's in the browser. So after you do the work, you're going to load it up and preview it in the browser, and then you're going to take a screen capture. You're also going to take a screen capture of your CSS code that's inside of the document. And in this document that we're working with, it's going to be an internal CSS. So it's not an external CSS file. The CSS is all going to be in the head of the document. So you'll just take a screenshot of that, which you'll see me do later. And then you're also going to take a screenshot of the HTML portion of that document, everything between the body tags, so that I can see how you integrated or added the elements into your code. And then of course there's some explanations of how to do screen captures if you've forgotten how to do it. So we'll see all of that today in our tutorial. So the last part of our overview video is going to be just getting our files set up to work in Dreamweaver. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate here how I'm going to take the tutorial files and load them onto my computer and then set them up in Dreamweaver. So again, on the tutorial page we have the link to the tutorial files, which again is a zip file, And inside of it, we're going to see the actual folder. So the stock to site, and then inside of it, we have a root and a sources folder. So what we're going to be doing with this one is downloading this folder so that we can actually access it on our local machine. Now, this is a local folder for me, so I don't need to download it in the same way, but you should end up with a button that says download. Once you download that folder, you're going to have to uncompress it, which on a Mac is as simple as just double clicking on the zip file and then turning that zip file into, it will actually unlock it and open it up, and this is what you should end up with. So here's what the zip looks like when you download it, stock to site master zip. And then when I double click on it, it gives me the equivalent of that file, but opened up into all the folders. So here's the master folder, just like this was a real website. And then inside of it, I have my root folder, which again is only supposed to have files inside of it that are prepared to go onto the web. Anything that is a master working document or an original source media file should not be anywhere inside of the root folder. And then inside of our stock to site sources folder, we do have some assets in here. Remember, this stuff is not prepared to go online. It's just a part of, it's going to be a part of the website, but not in the way that it is. So I have an Illustrator file in here, an AI file, which is an Illustrator file in the graphics, and then in images, I have 3 photographic images that I downloaded from the various free resources online, right? So, and then here is that sample of the stock asset tracking document, all again, not prepared to go online, but here and helpful for the making of our website. So once you have downloaded your zip, I want you to move your stock to site master folder somewhere on your computer. So that might be inside of your web design folder for the class, or it might be on your desktop, or it might be in your documents folder somewhere, somewhere where you're keeping the projects for this class. So once you've got your folder loaded, then what we need to do is we need to actually go into Dreamweaver and introduce this new site to Dreamweaver. You might have seen in my notes that we are not going to use the tutorial and testing website that we set up last week, but instead we are going to set up a brand new site in Dreamweaver. So currently I have my testing site open in Dreamweaver, but like I said, I need to make a new site. So I'm going to go up to Site and then down to New Site. And in here we're going to give this a name, and on my handout, which is on page 2, I'm going to call this Stock to Site so I can remember what the purpose of this was. And then I'm going to go out and find the root folder. Okay, so I'm going to go and browse out. And again, I need to navigate all the way up through. So here we go into my web design, and then I go into my lessons. Got a lot of files in here, don't I? And then here is my stock images, stock to site master. So here is where I have unzipped and stored my master folder, but remember, we're not going to choose that right now. We need to tell it only about the root folder so that it understands about the files that are meant to go online, and it doesn't know anything about what's in my sources folder or the master. So I'm going to say choose, and then I'm going to say save. And then what I have over here inside of Dreamweaver now is yet another website that I can work on. And I see my HTML file in here, and then I've got my assets folder, which also has a graphics and images folder inside of it to start. I can go ahead and double click on the icon for my file, and this is our starting document. Go ahead and pick up in the next video where I'm going to go through the process of optimizing the assets and then bringing them into this website where I'm going to replace my placeholder images.